there is, I think, a substantial and important difference between the way abolitionism functioned in the Midwest and the way it functioned in New England. New England was dominated by William Lloyd Garrison and the Garrisonians, and William Lloyd Garrison was the closest thing that you could think of to a 19th century radical on the issues of race and on the issues of anti-slavery. He was radical to the point where at various speeches in various places he would hold up copies of the Constitution and he would say to the crowd, "This is a slaveholder's document. This document protects the institution of slavery." And at certain points he burned copies of the Constitution. That's equivalent to today, for example, burning the flag. And his pacifism, his commitment to equality, not only racial equality, gender equality, was, I think, dominant among many abolitionists in the East. I think it becomes less dominant as you move west. In fact, the Western brand of abolition, although it takes on some of those characteristics of Garrisonianism, becomes more what we today might call more practical. Garrison, for example, refused to participate in politics. In the West, there was this notion that politics might be the vehicle through which abolition could be successfully addressed. The abolitionists in the West tended to be less committed to the kind of racial equality that Garrisonians at least paid lip service to. And therefore, the Midwestern abolitionists tended to certainly be opposed to slavery, but not the same strong positions on the issue of racial equality. Now that's important because Lincoln comes out of that tradition. Lincoln is not a racial egalitarian. Lincoln has said on several occasions he did not believe that African Americans were equal to white Americans, except in terms of their rights. He argued very strongly that African Americans ought to have equal rights, although he was not in favor of social equality. In fact, he tried to make the distinction between being opposed to slavery, which he was, but not necessarily in favor of social racial equality, which he was not. In fact, at one point he says, just because I wouldn't have a black woman for a slave does not mean I would have her for a wife. He was saying this as a rejoinder to those people who use as a rhetorical device, a rhetorical attack on him, that if he was opposed to slavery, he must certainly be for racial equality, and that would, they argued, inevitably lead to what they call the racial amalgamation. Lincoln made it very clear that he was not in favor of racial amalgamation.